This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Warrenville City Council regular meeting for March 15th, 2021. In accordance with Governor Pritzker's disaster proclamation and Section 7E of the Illinois Open Meetings Act and a determination by the Mayor of the City of Warrenville, this meeting will be held virtually. Persons wishing to provide public comment are strongly encouraged to submit written comments via email at info@warrenville.il.us by 5 p.m. the day of the meeting. If you want to attend tonight by phone, the access information is, the call number is 312-757-3121, and access code is 581-830-397. And please note, this meeting, as announced earlier, is being recorded. Reminder again to mute yourself if you're not speaking, to minimize background noise, please. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Brummel.
Here.
Alderman Anderson.
Here.
Alderman Ashour.
Here.
Alderman Berry.
Here.
Alderman Davalos.
Here.
Alderman Goodman.
Here.
Alderman Krischel. Alderman Krischel.
Here.
Alderman Widener.
Here.
Alderman Wilson.
Here.
Treasurer Brenner.
Here.
City Attorney Brooke Lenneman.
Here.
City Administrator John Coakley.
Here.
Assistant City Administrator Christina White.
Yes.
Police Chief Ray Torano.
Here.
Finance Director Kevin Dahlstrand.
Here.
Community and Economic Development Director Ron Menzer.
Here.
And Public Works Director Phil Kukler.
Here.
Thank you, Emily. This is the time that we set aside to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to say along with us at home.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the time we set aside for citizens' comments, both the folks that have shown up to the council chambers, emailed comments earlier, and people on the phone. We'll start with those present for the meeting. One person has signed up to make comments tonight, Mr. Bob Siebert. All right, we have a technical difficulty and we have a lack of a microphone at the podium. Can we remedy that?
No.
What happens when you scramble because of technical difficulties? I presume someone's working on this. Too bad, Bob, your 3 minutes is going to be used up before you get to talk.
Oh my goodness.
Here, shut the sound off. Get your one on the podium. Take your time.
Make sure everyone can hear.
You're good. Thank you, Christina.
There's two problems with item number I.
Outstanding. Is incorrect. Second, there is lack of proper.
Mayor, this is Alderman Anderson. We can't hear the speaker.
Okay, try, speak a little louder.
Hear me now.
No?
You can hear him vaguely in the background, but not clearly enough to understand what he's saying.
All
It
right.
sounds garbled. It's not the speaker, it's the way the city is modulating the sound. It's garbled. But you can hear everybody else from the city clearly.
All right. We'll find him another microphone.
What's the plan?
I just told them if I don't come out.
Are you gonna,
Yeah,
you just,
much better, much better.
you know, why don't you just have a seat at the end? Thank you. We're almost there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can.
All right.
I can.
The city of Warrenville has two problems with item number I on the agenda. First, the amount stated of $200 to $300 is incorrect. Second, there is a lack of proper planning. The stated 1,000 square foot new patio area should have a 12-inch dig out. Use 40 cubic yards plus of material to remove from the site. That would equate to 3 6-wheelers. If the soil is not topsoil, you would want to take this to 119th to the dump site, which charges $65 per 6-wheeler. Should be $195. At the same time, the stone base of CA6 would be 40 tons. This 40 tons would cost per 6-wheeler, and there are 3 6-wheelers, $112 at the site of 119th. It would have to be transferred to the site. If 2 semis were used, it would be $371 per semi, or $742 to deliver the necessary 40 tons. If your 3 6-wheelers are used a round trip, you would then have a full load on the truck going out and back. However, you would still have the over $500 on dump fees and the charge of $336 for the stone at that site. The dig out, you would need a machine, either a small backhoe or uniloader, and an operator, plus 2 laborers to set the grades, the shovels along the side where all the concrete walkways are, coming up to ensure that you don't damage those areas, and then have these individuals, when the stone comes in, you need 2 lifts with a compactor to compact the stone at the times. Then you have to shoot as you're putting the stone in to check for the proper drainage. If, as it was stated, they wanted electric to the site, the code states it has to be 18 inches buried. The additional overhead or burden on insurance on the cost, the workers' comp is what we pay is $15 per $100 of wages. And the liability, general liability, which the city pays both workers' comp and liability, is a dollar figure Ours is $17 per $1,000. When we add all these figures up, because this is paying taxpayers' money to do this specific job, you are in the $4,000 to $5,000 out-of-pocket cost to achieve this option on I. The second, on planning, it's proper and necessary for a plan, a layout and design before you commence any type of construction. You have to have the elevations on the ground, the elevations on the concrete, the elevations on Stafford Place, to ensure that you then can have the proper plan to drain the area correctly. With this particular site, you do not want to drain the water onto the public walkway on Batavia Road. So if you looked at the site, there is an inlet on the north corner of Stafford Place. So you would want to take all the water towards the existing inlet that is in the north corner of Stafford Place. Also, at this point, you would want to identify on the plan the electric source, because you don't want to bring the electric from the building. You would take it from a source out in the field, because you don't know if the person, or maybe a different person, whatever it would be in the future for the electric that would be out there. You would also want to identify the electric. We generally place it on small pedestals to protect it from any movement, from any water damage, or any other that can assault your electric source. At the planning stage here, you would also choose the brick choice. Bricks come in concrete, clay, or natural. They also come in different sizes. The sizes on the height can be 2 inches to 4 inches, which would then at this point identify the difference on the finished grade on the patio and the dig out as to where you're putting it with the drainage. With concrete, it is completely different. You don't have the same dig out. You don't have the same setup as you do with pavers. The difference is with pavers, they will last. I'm a strong supporter of these. They will last for 40 years. If you look at the front of the City Hall, the second concrete approach has been installed, and you can see the cracking already. Concrete contractors will tell you one thing: they will warranty that concrete will crack. With the pavers, you do not have this problem. With the choice on the pavers, you can get different sizes. Also, there is on the newer pavers a 1/4 inch added on to maintain the color and the stability of the particular paver, which is what you would want. Then with this on the planning stage, you would have to ensure that you have insurance, the liability, additionally insured the city, and you would also have to have a statement here for future maintenance, because the maintenance on paver bricks does occur and you have to maintain these. The other process you could use with the pavers to get to the inlet, to drain this site, which is the most crucial item here to get the drainage, you could have permeable pavers where you would go down deeper, you would drain it underneath the bricks and take it to the inlet in Stafford Place on the north side. But these items should be taken care of prior to voting on this, so that everyone is aware of the cost, the citizens are aware of what is being spent, and the proper items are established. You cannot have somebody simply come in and donate bricks. You don't know what size, what type, and what is best for the city as opposed to what is a brick that some contractor may want to be getting rid of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Do we have any email comments for tonight's meeting? None? Okay. And is there anyone on the phone that would like to make a comment at this point? Please speak up, identify yourself, and speak up.
I'm Sheila Wakely from 29W463 Amber Lane, and I'm familiar with tonight's agenda, but at this point I have nothing to say, so when something comes up, I'll let you know.
All right, thank you. Once we get past this part of the meeting for citizens' comments, there will be no more citizens' comments, so just let you know. Okay.
So are you saying that this is the end of the opportunity to comment on anything that's going to be discussed at tonight's meeting?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well then, just extemporaneously, I wanted to make two comments. We really appreciate the city of Warrenville and grateful to live here. It's been a tough year for most residents trying to navigate these type of meetings where there's no face-to-face, and it's been very challenging for many people to try to understand and acquiesce information in its proper order and finding a public forum to express themselves. I do really appreciate that you're letting people have email comments, but I did hear a comment this week that because of the lack of response, that perhaps people at the city or maybe even people in authority might think that people are apathetic or not interested. Nothing could be further from the case, but obviously this new format is a struggle, especially for older people who maybe don't know technology. So it's really been a challenge for a lot of people to feel like their voices are being heard. It's just an unusual situation, nobody's fault, but just a challenge. I do feel that our neighborhood especially has spent a lot of time navigating all the changes in the 8 acres surrounding where we live. I live at 29W463 Amber Lane. And there's a general feeling of too much development too fast in a way where there's not a good format to react to it, almost like seize the opportunity, not intentionally, but the way it's come across is that people just feel like their voices won't be heard because there's not a proper format for it. So I do think that the city council, the mayor, really cares about what people think. I do think that the people on the, especially the, Ron and his team do everything they can to really provide information when people ask for it. Sometimes it's not available in a timely fashion, but not because of the city's fault. Usually developers are slow to produce amended documents. But I want to say that if development continues at a pace where there's variances and zoning changes and step back changes, especially in neighborhoods that are going to be directly impacted, my personal opinion, and I think many Warrenville residents would feel so much better if that process could be slowed down until people could actually intermingle and, represent their neighborhoods and talk directly to their representatives in a format that could be recorded where people could actually see the face-to-face. So we're praying hard that you guys will take all this into account, and we certainly hope the best, but I definitely can see a real sense of discouragement on many of the residents, the way that development has proceeded so quickly during a time where there's so much shutdown and people feel like their voices cannot be heard. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Sheila. And as it turns out, we do have one other person here at City Hall who wishes to speak. Could you identify yourself, please?
This is George Wansum at 29W463 Amber Lane. I had a brief moment to look over the agenda before I came tonight, and I'm so glad that Bob Siebert stepped up and talked about the public property improvement on agenda number I. And because the first thing I saw was budget impact of $200 to $300 to do this, and it's going to be on the city's dime and not on the owners of the, as far as I can tell by reading this short thing, of the owners that are in front of business owners that are in front of this proposed patio. And, you know, I'm not as experienced as Bob is in calculating out the costs of materials and labor and trucks and all these other things, but $200 to $300, I was smart enough to know that that was not possible. And donating bricks, this is the front view of our city again, Batavia Road and Butterfield Road, and people are going to be going over there and spending their time and bringing their families and doing these things. And if there is going to be such an improvement on public property that's going to benefit the businesses more than the public, then I got an issue with that. And I think that this thing really needs to be looked at the way Bob was talking about, and that the proper, if this is going to go through and it benefit the businesses, then the businesses need to have some skin in the game, number one, and number two, not just some, you know, a good chunk of the skin. And then number two, it needs to be something that's going to last a long time. You know, unlike other improvements that have happened, and you know, things happen, but this should be a no-brainer. And if it costs $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to do it right, then that's what should be done. And the business owners should have some skin in the game, especially the ones that are mostly benefiting by it. The other thing is that I too would like to echo what the previous caller talked about, in that it's really difficult these days to get a good sense of what the city planning and city council is doing during this very, very difficult time of being separated, being, you know, by the COVID. And it would be great if there was a way to get documentation maybe in a better way. I do look at the internet. I do print out things from time to time, but a lot of times it seems like the horse is out of the barn, and the ability to really comment on things is way past the fact. And it's discouraging. It's discouraging to people in our neighborhood. It's discouraging to other people that I meet from other parts of the town. And I just want the council and the planning commission to hear this and maybe think about why there isn't more people showing up at meetings, why there isn't more email comments. It's not because they don't care. It's not because they're too busy. It's because they don't think their voice matters. And they're not getting the information in the best way possible. And these are my comments for tonight. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, George. Anyone else wish to speak before we close off citizen comments?
Hi there, Monica Lefevre here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Monica. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, Monica Lefevre. I am owner of Evelyn Eve's Wine Shop, for those who don't know my name. I guess I just want to preface with, I know that change is uncomfortable. Some find it even scary, but I've found that throughout my life, change actually has produced evolving that is necessary. And I've only evolved as a person through change. I do understand this is a project. It's not something simple, and I totally respect everyone else that feels like they have been able to address their opinions in the right way, because, you know, COVID, it's definitely uplifted a lot of things. But all I can say is that this improvement, yes, it will help businesses, especially mine. I'm not denying that. but it is for the community. I witnessed so many customers enjoying that patio, and those customers are our community. They loved it. And we can't negate the fact that we had about 100 people write in favor of this project. So we can't ignore their voices either. So although I agree that unfortunately COVID and this, I mean, I'd rather be sitting and seeing faces myself. Like I'm kind of over this, but it is what it is. But just I guess I don't see this change as a bad thing. It is a project. We do have to figure it out. But I think in the end, I truly believe that this will be great for that corner. It will be great for the community, not just the business. And I would really hope that everybody can kind of look into that vision themselves and see where I'm coming from. So that will be all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Monica. Anyone else? Okay.
I'd like to say, this is Sheila Wakely again, 29W463 Amber Lane. I did want to say one other thing. As I said earlier, I do think the city is very helpful when you go down to get information. And I do understand that, especially when I've ever dealt with Ron or the building department, they've just been incredible. I spent a good part of a summer ago doing some research for a friend of mine with the Sierra Club, investigating other city council meetings, especially in Michigan, and how they are responding during COVID. One of the comments that was made tonight that I have seen other cities do differently is the information is presented timely well before city council and planning commission meetings. There's a cutoff for any new or amended information until citizens have time to process the current information, and then it's addressed after citizens' comments. So a good example or kind of a metaphor would be this evening. So citizens can speak first, and then you cut off citizens' comments, which is one way to do it. But other city council meetings in other parts of the United States, especially two of them that I attended over the summer in Michigan, they actually let the citizens comment after the topic of discussion is addressed in that moment. So it's just something to think about, to make people comment first before matters are addressed, but then not to give access for them to voice their comments is more of this type of, not intentional, I'm sure, but this type of dynamic that is leading to a frustration among citizens that they can't be heard in a timely fashion. One of the citizens I spoke to this week mentioned a city council meeting way back when we were discussing the Everton project, and they brought up comments that were made by, it doesn't even matter, somebody sitting on the city council about saying, well, you should have brought this up before. And the citizen, you know, had a lot of wherewithal to have access to information and said, I certainly would have brought it up before if I was allowed to share my comments in a timely fashion. So just something to think about, that if people could actually have input at the time or as it's happening at that city council meeting, at the end of the meeting, as opposed to prior to the discussion. A lot of city councils do it that way. It's a very democratic process, and it certainly gives empowerment to the residents and citizens that pay the taxes that run the city. Overall, I have to say Warrenville's the greatest town. I can't think of a better town. I love it, but I definitely think since other cities are trying this and it seems to be working out well, I'd be happy to bring my paperwork down to City Hall and show you what I found in the last 9 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just a clarification about our process. City council meetings at the time when the council votes on their intentions to support or not support a particular project or an idea. Our committee meetings, we hold twice a month, are the time that citizens have unlimited time to talk about or ask questions about a project when it is being discussed as an agenda item. So that is an opportunity that you do have. If you wish to speak about a particular project, you can come to the committee meeting. The chairs of those meetings allow discussion at the time of the discussion of that particular project. That's a little different than what we do at council meetings. Council meetings, we've already had the discussion at the committee meetings. This is the time that we vote, but we do give citizens an opportunity, if they've been following it at the committee meetings and still want to make a comment at the council meeting, that's allowed at the beginning of the meeting. But then we go to the voting process. So just a little bit of a clarification. We do try to encourage people to come and speak about whatever they like to speak in a timely manner while it's being discussed by the council and the committee of the whole format. Once we've done that, we allow another time at the city council meeting to speak again, and then we go into the voting mode. So we're at wise. We're going to move on now to official and staff comments, and I already made one, I guess. I have one additional one. There were some questions I saw recently on social media about the American Rescue Plan Act, about how much money the city of Warrenville was going to receive, when it happened, and how we intended to spend it. I have to tell you, at this point, everything is pretty tentative. We have not anything written in stone as to exactly how much money is going to be available to us, when it's going to be available. We know it's going to be broken into two segments. We know that the state of Illinois is going to control the dispersal of that fund, but we don't know exactly what the numbers are yet. We don't know when we're going to get it, and we don't know what the guidelines are going to be for spending it. So everything at this point is pretty tentative. When we get better information as to what's going to happen with that, we'll certainly pass that along so that you can have your questions answered. But for right now, I guess at the depth of our knowledge as to what's going to happen is about what we've read in the paper. Supposedly there's $1.6 million, give or take, available to the city of Warrenville, but whether that number is accurate, when it's going to show up, and what we're going to be allowed to do with it is still tentative. We don't know that for sure. So that's my comment for this evening. Clerk.
No comment, thank you.
Treasurer.
No report.
Thank you. Alderman. We'll start with Alderman Anderson.
No comments this evening.
Thank you, Alderman Ashour.
No comment, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Berry.
No comment, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Davos.
Thank you, Mayor. I have three quick things. One, I'd like to thank the staff, especially the finance staff and administrative staff, for the budget meeting that we had Saturday. I'm listening to the citizens' comments and I'm thinking, wow, that would have been a good meeting to tune into if you want to know what's going on, because it was thorough. We have a clear understanding of what we're losing in the pandemic and brainstorming ideas of what to do about that, cutting budget items, discerning, and asking lots of questions. So those kinds of meetings are available to anybody in the public that wants to tune into that, come to the Zoom call and get the link. I'd like to build on what Mayor Brummel said, that the guts of what we do are not at the council meetings, actually. They are at the committee of the whole. And that's where we battle it through and we comment and we hear citizens' comments and we discuss with each other and with staff. And that's, I think, personally, kind of the meat of the political process where all the work is done. So the items that you see tonight, most of the items you see tonight, we have seen 2, maybe 3 times, maybe more times already. And now, as the mayor said, we're coming to do a final vote. We have an initial vote in the committee of the whole meetings, but that isn't final. That's just, and we can change our minds. And we have changed our minds on several times on different issues. So I just would encourage you to go to the city website. You go into agenda and minutes and you can get all the backup information we get. You can join in by phone. You can, some of you, I'm not sure how many can actually be at City Hall. And so I'm just encouraging you that, yes, it is more difficult. All of us want to be back in person. I've talked about that every day, and we will be. But there is a way to get information so that you have a chance to read it and formulate your questions and understand maybe why we're going in a certain direction or not, or why we've chosen, because you have memos from staff and And so I'm just kind of mentioning that. Number 3 is something I forgot to mention last week during Alderman comments. Not this last Saturday, but the Saturday before, CoffeeCon, which the City of Warrenville sponsored through our Tourism and Arts Council grant, took place for the whole day of Saturday. It was a streaming thing. And I wasn't quite sure how I was going to go because I happen to love this subject. And so I listened to most of it. And it was very interesting. But what was really interesting to me is how they highlighted Warrenville. So there were lots of talks, and in between the talks were little ads for some of the sponsors. And we were a big sponsor, so we got a lot of ad time. And there were wonderful videos. There were interviews with business people in town. The curator of the Warrenville Historical Museum was on talking about the Albright family. And I thought I knew all about the Albrights, but I learned some new things. They had clips from the Art Institute where some of that work is, little stories I didn't know about what happened then, and beautiful, beautiful pictures of our town and the buildings and the green space. And if I didn't already live here, I would think about moving here because it was a nice ad. And it was all over the country. People from all over the country and all over the world were tuning in, streaming into this thing. So I was thinking, wow, we might have got a bang for our buck here because I thought it was a wonderful presentation. So I'd like to thank TAC, Tourism and Arts, for helping that along, and for everybody that put that on, and the CoffeeCon folks. It was really a good experience. So that's it.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Goodman.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that time is running short to request a vote by mail ballot for the April 6th election. You can also vote early now, and that will expand countywide in a week. There's information on the locations and time for early voting on the county clerk's website. And online voter registration is still open, actually, until March 21st. So you can still do day of registration on April 6th at the county offices as well. So please vote.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Krischel. Alderman Krischel?
No comments for me tonight, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Widener.
I have no comments this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Alderman Wilson?
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll move on then to the staff, city administrator.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A couple of quick things. Just some COVID-19 reminders. There is a lot of information, I've said before, on the DuPage County Health Department website. Anybody wants to go there, there's just all kinds of information. There's a dashboard that gives all the stats. It's easy to see with a lot of visuals, and takes the data and makes it into graphical, and even there's a map where you can click on your town and check on a whole lot of data. Region 8, which is DuPage and Kane County that we're part of, is doing much, much better over the last few weeks. The numbers of positive COVID cases, positivity rate, if you will, is much better. The number of hospital beds are doing better. The ICU beds are doing better. So we're in much better shape than we were just a few weeks ago. That doesn't mean this is over. We still have to watch our distance, wash our hands, wear our masks, stay apart. Be cautious is what we do. We can enjoy a lot more freedoms and things we like to do, like going to restaurants or being in small groups, but we need to be cautious still. The last thing I will add is many people have already gotten vaccines. There's a lot of information on the DuPage County website about vaccine safety that connects with the Illinois Department of Public Health or the CDC at the federal level. So if you have questions, anyone in the public that is anxious about that, once in a while the city gets contacts with questions, we refer the people there. I myself have not yet been able to. I'm not eligible to be vaccinated yet. I'm in that big group 2 that will come someday. I am very anxiously awaiting. I will roll my sleeve up as soon as I can get in line and get that vaccine. I'm very happy for all the people that have already gotten those. That helps all of us. I would encourage personally anyone who is considering getting a vaccine, do your research, talk to your doctor. I think it's very worthwhile and far safer than the alternative of getting sick. But again, the DuPage County Health Department is our local health experts and our local health authority in DuPage County, and there's a lot of information if you want to research it or check it out, or just to register where to get a vaccine or to find out locations. Many people have been waiting for the health department, and they have lots of people and not enough vaccine to get distributed, but many folks I've spoken to that are eligible have gone to pharmacies or other retail locations that are able to get vaccinated ahead of the county. So that's what I wanted to share with everyone, and thank you.
Thank you, John. City Attorney Lenneman.
No report. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. We'll move on then to the approval of the agenda for this evening. May I have a motion, please? Alderman White.
Yes, thank you. I move to approve the agenda for the March 15th, 2021 City Council regular meeting.
Alderman Davalos, I'd like to remove item I.
Aye. Okay.
Motioner agrees.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Wilson. Any other changes? Please speak up. Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please, for the change to agenda for this evening?
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Krischel.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Thank you, Emily. The amended agenda has been approved. We have 2 sets of minutes that need to be approved also this evening. Alderman Widener, would you like to make that motion also?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the March 1st, 2021 City Council regular meeting and to approve the minutes of the March 8th, 2021 Community Development Committee meeting.
Second, Alderman Wilson.
Alderman
Thank you.
Davalos
Motion.
has one change. At the
Alderman Davalos.
appropriate
Sorry,
I have a small change whenever it's appropriate.
it's appropriate now.
Okay, on the March 1st council meeting, under Chief Toronto's report, or on the report about Chief Toronto's police department report, something was misstated. It sort of indicated this, that I was thanking Chief Toronto for working with the Environmental Advisory Commission on purchasing the solar-powered speed signs. I was just speaking on behalf of the EAC to say thank you to him and the police department for considering solar power things. So I didn't want anybody to think that idea came from the EAC. It came certainly from the police department. So that's the only thing.
Okay. Clerk, note that change, please.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, and do the motioner and the seconder agree to that change?
The motioner agrees.
Second agrees.
Very good. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, may I have a roll call again, please?
Alderman Krischel.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Motion carries. The minutes are approved. We'll move now to the consent agenda for this evening as amended. Item 6A, accept staff recommendation, waive second reading and pass ordinance 02021-07, adopting a revised zoning district map 2021-2022 for the city of Warrenville. B, accept community development committee recommendation, waive second reading and pass ordinance 02021-08, approving the marked final plat of subdivision. C, accept community development committee recommendation and pass resolution R2021-14, approving the subdivision public improvement agreement and the covenant associated with the proposed next plat of subdivision. We're having a lot of background noise. Would you please mute if you're not speaking? Thank you. D, accept Mayor Brummel's recommendation and pass resolution R2021-15, extending the duration of the March 16th, 2020 declaration of emergency until the adjournment of the next regular, special, or emergency meeting of the City Council. E, accept Community Development Committee recommendation and pass resolution R2021-16, approving the revised lease agreement with DuPage County for local Illinois Prairie Path Trailhead project improvements. F, accept staff recommendation and pass resolution R2021-17, approving an agreement with the Illinois Prairie Path for the Founders Memorial Display as part of the city's Trailhead project. G, accept Community Development Committee recommendation and authorize the partial closure of Stafford Place for the annual bike rodeo event as outlined in the March 2nd, 2021 memo from Management Analyst and BPAC Staff Liaison Youngmeyer. H, accept Community Development Committee recommendation and approve the BPAC's request to solicit donations for the 15th annual bike rodeo event on May 15th, 2021. J, receive and file minutes of the Environmental Advisory Commission meeting held on February 2nd, 2021. K, receive and file report of invoices paid up to March 10th, 2021 in the amount of $148,038.02. L, authorize expenditures for invoices due on or before April 5th, 2021 in the amount of $276,692.22. And M, receive and file report of the master debit card expenditures for the month of February 2021 in the amount of $6,436.07. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda as read?
Alderman Widener makes a motion to approve the agenda as presented by Mayor David Brummel.
Second, Alderman Wilson.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. May I have a roll call, please?
Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Alderman Crishaw.
Aye.
Thank you. The consent agenda as amended has been approved. We are going to return to item 6I. Alderman Davalos, did you wish to make that motion or would you prefer someone else?
No, I'm doing it for someone else. So I would like to make the motion to accept Community Development Committee recommendation and authorize city staff to excavate and remove the soil, install a gravel base, and coordinate the installation of a concrete or brick paver surface from donated labor and materials in the public property located at the northeast end of the Stafford Place right-of-way.
That is not the wording that I have for the motion on my agenda.
Oh, I'm reading it from, I guess, I'm reading it from page 5, but maybe, is it different on the original?
Yes, it's slightly different. I think we need the wording as it's listed on the agenda.
On page 2 of the agenda.
Page 3 of 5. Page 3, item I.
Page 2.
It's page 2, I think. I think it's 2, right? Page 2?
Page 3 for me.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to accept Community Development Committee recommendation and authorize city staff to excavate and remove the soil, install a gravel base, and coordinate the installation of a concrete or paver brick surface from labor and materials donated by local businesses in the public property located immediately adjacent to the east end of the existing Stafford Place street pavement.
Alderman Berry, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Before we have discussion, could I ask Community and Economic Development Director Menser to give us an idea of exactly how this is going to work? I believe there are some misconceptions. Ron?
Okay, if the city council approves this action tonight, city staff, community development staff, I should say, and public works staff will work with a local contractor that's experienced in performing this type of work to develop a design and then implement the replacement of the existing grass, black dirt, and subsoil in the area with an appropriate gravel base, and then have the contractor place on top of that gravel base a new brick paver or concrete surface.
Okay, and the responsibility for most of that work is going to be the businesses. The city is only going to do oversight, correct?
The city, as I presented at the Community Development Committee, the city would be coordinating or performing the excavation of the dirt, removal of that, hauling of that, and then hauling back in the gravel base and placing the gravel base. The outside contractor would be responsible, or contractors, depending on how it all works out, would be responsible for providing suitable surface materials at no cost to the city, and then installing those surface materials at no cost to the city. The $200 to $300 estimate that was included in the agenda packet backup was the out-of-pocket cost the city would incur to purchase the gravel. And that was based on input that was provided by the Public Works Department. The actual hauling and placement of the gravel would be done with city equipment and city services, or city equipment and city staff.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Back to you, Alderman Davalos.
I took this off for Alderman Goodman, so maybe she can start. I do have a few questions, but I would probably have her go first.
Okay, well, why don't I go through the list and give everyone an opportunity the way we normally do it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, Alderman Anderson.
Yeah, I guess two questions. Number one, is it right to assume that, Mr. Metzer, that nothing will be started until we have a firm agreement and commitment by all parties to fully fund and see through the body of work? Is one, just so we're not digging a hole and then realize they're not ready with the plan. And that number two, we have sign off on the quality of the plan so that we ensure that the asset is sufficient to what we would expect. And then my third question is, are we still comfortable with that pricing? That's all it's going to take for us to excavate, haul, and bring back.
Thank you, Alderman. Back to you, Ron.
Okay, I'll start with the last question first. I only can offer what I've been informed by the Public Works Department. And again, I think the cost that was represented was tied directly to the cost we would incur to purchase the gravel. I did not ask for, and the Public Works Department did not try to calculate out how much equipment time and wear and tear on equipment and staff time would be involved to do this. So I mean, we could certainly do that if that's something the City Council feels is important in making a decision here. The second question was, the first question, I'll have to ask you to restate the second one because I lost that one a little bit as I was thinking about how to respond to the questions. The first one was whether or not we would start the work before we had a firm plan and a commitment to finish the job. And I both documented in the backup material for the committee agenda packet, and I believe somebody else asked a question at the committee meeting. And it is certainly the city staff's expectation is that none of this work would be done until we had a firm plan on for the work, and we had a commitment from qualified outside contractors that they would be providing suitable service material, and they had sufficient and experienced labor to provide that. We have been in communication with the city attorney, and kind of anticipation of tonight's vote. The city attorney will be working on developing an agreement that we would have any contractors that would be providing this donated labor or materials execute that would acknowledge that they would be holding the city harmless for anything that happened to their workers. They would be providing an insurance certificate, all the things that we would normally obtain as part of any other type of public works project. And sorry, what was the middle question, Alderman Anderson?
Just from there'll need to be a selection of paver materials that are used, and is that a sign off that your office or some office within the city holds?
Yeah, it would be primarily the Public Works Department that would be looking at that. They have more experience than community development on actually specifying the type of product that would be appropriate in this particular location, and the depth of the concrete or the dimensions of the actual paver bricks that would be appropriate for this type of situation. If I can go back, and I hope I answered your middle question there. Okay, I'll take a smile as I did. Back to the cost of the project. We have, I do want to be honest and upfront. We have not designed anything at this point in time. I mean, really, when I'm looking at the agenda packet or the motion that's on the agenda, and maybe there should have been one more word in that. You know, on the second line it says and coordinate the installation. Maybe it's coordinate the design and installation. Yeah, we definitely need to design it before we install it, but there's no sense of installing it if the city council wasn't comfortable with this type of somewhat unique arrangement. In normal circumstances, the city would just design it or hire an engineer to design it, and then we would bid it out, and the city would be entirely responsible for the project. It would be something that we would, budget for, and this project would probably be, $10,000 or $15,000 project. Due to the budget constraints, as we talked about at the last committee meeting, we're taking a more creative approach, you might say, in this case. I'll say it maybe kind of the throwback Mayor Lund approach. If anybody gets something done that's necessary, we're not going to chintz on it. We're still going to develop design, and we're going to ensure it's done properly, but we're not going to bear all those costs in this case. We're going to provide some in-kind services in a sense, and there will be some small expenses to the community to make this happen. But I guess what I'm saying is, I want to come back to is that as we work through the design process, it may be that there's some additional city costs that would need to be incurred. At this point in time, we're not planning from the city's perspective to put any electric in that area, but there may be some additional sidewalk replacement to existing public sidewalk that might need to take place as part of this. Over the last week or so, the Public Works Department has taken a little closer look at this area. The snow is now all melted, and they can see what's going on out there, and they do have some concerns about how we're going to drain the area properly. There's an existing belly in the adjacent sidewalk that we don't want to design and implement a patio to, so it's very likely that there might be some additional costs. I would suggest if those are outside of what would be normal staff authority to approve, that we would have to come back to the city council to present that. I don't know what those costs are because we haven't done the design work at this point in time.
Okay, Alderman Anderson, are you good?
Yeah, those answer my questions. I remain supportive of this. I personally find this a nice balance of public and private partnership to accomplish something for the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Ashour?
Thank you. I have to say I'm surprised at the amount of the dollars that are being suggested, but the other part of that is we've pretty much come to the realization that the current design of that area is not the best choice for what we're trying to accomplish in that part of town, that some type of a hard surface would be a better choice. We all make mistakes, and certainly the council, we all, I mean, there's no intention to have it go that way, but I think that the fact that everybody's trying to put this thing together in the least expensive way possible to correct something that can be done better in a different way is a good choice.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. Alderman Berry.
I also agree. I think that this is, it's a benefit to the business, but it's also probably a bigger benefit to the community. I know so many people that have enjoyed going there all summer long. I was there once. I know I will go back again if it is paved. I have talked to people about even bringing my own lawn chair, sitting over in the lawn. I think it's a good partnership with business and the city. We have to do, and especially at these times, we have to do whatever we can to help businesses survive. And that's even what the federal government is doing. They're helping businesses survive. They're helping our city survive also by giving us money. And we have to be considerate of small businesses. And we have to be considerate of our citizens if this is definitely something that they enjoy. So I definitely am also in favor of this.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Davalos.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple quick questions. So we are losing only one parking space at this point. I know it's pre-design time, but at this point, we're only losing the one parking space, correct?
No, there's actually no parking spaces that would be displaced as a result of this.
Oh, okay. That one at the bottom. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, thanks. Now it's public property, so does it change any aspect of our liability insurance for that piece of land? It still would rest on us if somebody was injured or there was something that happened that could be the fault of whoever owned the property. That would still be on with our insurance, the city's insurance.
This
is Brooke Lenneman, the city attorney. This goes a little bit part and parcel with the proposed amendments to the city code to authorize the use of public way for outdoor seating patios. And as part of that regime, I believe that it's our intention to include a license agreement that's very similar to the license agreement that's part of the auxiliary seating, outdoor seating program that the city has now as part of the temporary COVID measures. So basically in that license agreement, the business would indemnify the city for any claims that arose out of the use of that area, and would also have to maintain certain minimum insurance coverage that includes that outdoor seating area, patio area. So to the extent possible, it's our goal that the city would not incur additional liability for the private use of these outdoor spaces.
Okay. My last, I think, comment is I thought that the community development director did a nice job in the backup material of the staff position. I kind of summed up what a lot of people are saying tonight about how this fits into our planning and our strategic planning, and some justifications for changing the ordinance and moving forward and all this sort of thing. So I appreciate that. It kind of clarified exactly what was going on. We talked at the committee of the whole meeting about this lease, that a lot of aldermen asked how exactly it was going to work each year. And what if what if somebody else came up? I mean, right now there isn't anybody else, and wanted to use that public space. And it was talked about that we would look at it every year. And as I was reading the backup, it was more clear to me that the donation of the brick was not coming directly from that business, from the Evil at Eve business, but was being donated by somebody else. And my thought was, maybe that's not such a bad thing, because it might make doing the leasing a little bit easier. Because we didn't talk, and nor should we talk tonight, about that criteria and how that will work. That we'll figure that out when we need to figure it out. But it seemed like a better plan to have somebody in the public donating those bricks. It seemed cleaner to me, so that any business there would have a chance to have it for a year. So that's just a comment. No answer required, but I thought it just was cleaner. So, So all those things together, I'm a yes vote.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Goodman.
Thank you. I asked Alderman Davalos to remove this item. As a member of this city council, I feel strongly it's my job to make laws, in our case ordinances, that apply equally to everyone. And this issue seems like a simple one to me. A business which acts like it can decide which laws apply to it and which don't is not a business we should be writing laws specifically for. The business owner spoke to us last week and talked about breaking the law without any remorse. During this very dangerous pandemic, in which over 530,000 people have died in this country alone, 2.7 million worldwide so far. Our public health officials, who know a lot more about how to fight COVID than me, advised that during the horrific spike of cases and deaths this winter in this area, indoor dining should be illegal. And the state followed that advice and made it illegal. It wasn't up to me or this council, and it's not up to us to give this restaurant or any other a pass on following that law. Most of the restaurants in Warrenville did follow the law. If I voted for this item, I couldn't look at those business owners or my family or anyone else who lost a loved one to COVID in the eye. Last summer, I had friends who were really thrilled for this business to open and for the outdoor dining. I was rooting for this business and was very happy to see it succeed and become so popular in the summer. But when I pulled up in December to do a little Hanukkah shopping at J. Crew Games and saw a room full of people drinking indoors at this business, they were eating and drinking, so they did not have masks on. I was incredibly disappointed. This business let me down and let us all down. And if a spike in cases forces us to do what none of us want to do to shut things down again, I have every expectation from what this business owner has said that they would do the same thing again. For those reasons, I must vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Kushel.
Thanks. Just one question regarding the estimated cost for this. So, I mean, by voting yes, we're probably not going to see this item again, right? Because we're basically authorizing staff to complete the work. The estimate is, based on, it's an estimate. I guess my question is, say the costs are, once you get into it and you do your design, you say it's going to be, more than that. What is the opportunity to go back and say, you know what, we didn't want to spend that much, or kind of what's the process on that? Would you bring it back to council at that point?
Well, we could do it one of two ways. We could, the city council could establish a number that would trigger that if there was going to be more local city costs that would exceed that number, that we would be required to bring it back. Or you can give staff the ability to work with the city administrator and give that authority to the city administrator. I mean, typically, I can say that typically in projects, the Public Works Department regularly and routinely incurs costs on behalf of the city to fix city public infrastructure. And sometimes that's related to work that's happening from a private sector position. And we know that because of what the private sector is doing, it's just not going to, what we have in the public sector realm is not appropriate, and it would be wise and appropriate long-term for the community to take that opportunity to fix something. I understand in this case, this is a little unique in that there's a lot of eyes on this particular project, but the reality is if we want to make sure it gets done right, there may be some additional costs that, especially as it relates to the existing public sidewalk along Batavia Road, that would need to be incurred in order to do it right. Could we, avoid those costs? We probably could, and just work around, these maybe less than desirable existing conditions in the public on the public sidewalk. But I would suggest that it would be wise to go through the design process, and if they're relatively minor costs in the big picture of the city, that we just move forward and get this work done and fix things appropriately.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I'm just, thinking, 10, 15 times this amount. There's something that I'm not really agreeing to today, I guess is my point. So I think that, if it becomes a larger amount, I would ask that before proceeding that we could maybe bring it back to council and get approval on that additional as well. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Alderman Widener.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree too that we should have an accounting for both staff time and the cost of materials with this project, so that we can be fair to other businesses when they come asking for the same level of support, that we have like some information on the what we've done for other small businesses, and I hope that we can review this after a year with the owner to make sure that all the regulations and all the things that we try to set up with this agreement are being followed to the letter. It's important, I think, for the city during these challenging times to provide these public-private partnerships. I think the effort is worthwhile. And as I recall, when we did the strategic priorities, economic development was the most important thing the city could do at that time, was to stress economic development. And it's nice that that area has new life, and it's a place where people can go and gather, whereas before there really wasn't much to do over there. And I look forward to the success of other businesses that'll draw people and activity to that area, along with the trailhead that the city is investing in and the new bike shop that's in that location. It adds a unique atmosphere to the city that we haven't seen in quite a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Wilson.
Oh, I have several comments, and my basic one is the fact that we sure would like to help and assist any of the businesses in Warrenville to get back on their feet again, just as this one instance here. However, we are dealing with circumstances that seems to me like the cost factors have really blown up. I have no idea whether or not what the first speaker was this evening, and the cost and the engineering and who is going to support, who's going to pay for those costs if in fact they materialize. We're dealing here with our taxpayers' money. I appreciated up front that it was only going to cost several $100s for a little bit of gravel and a little bit of this and that. But after the discussions tonight and what we've heard tonight, I just question that what is going to be the final cost to the city of Warrenville to incorporate this renovation for this business? And secondly, is the business owner ready and willing to accept all the other responsibilities that may develop based upon the engineering, construction, and all the other costs and factors associated with this improvement, which I'm sure will be great. Trailhead is going to be a great addition to that part of our city. This too could be a very, very nice, good addition. However, I really want to see some more detail, final dollars and cents, and approval by the present owner of that business that the city can do their share, but it's up to the owner to do their share as well. Based upon that, I could give my approval, but I'd like to see this brought back to the city council when we get better figures and better answers.
Thank you, Alderman. Ron, would you like to respond? Or John Coakley, let's hear from you. We haven't heard from you yet.
Thank you. A couple of quick comments on that, and then Ron may be able to fill in some blanks, and Phil Kukler may also be able to add some to the conversation. Most of the costs of what we're talking about are still with the gravel. What Ron has referred to, and with the sidewalk and the drainage improvement and the change,
just came to my attention today, so I don't know the details. In fact, tomorrow morning, I'm going to be meeting with Phil out on the site to go over that, so I can't give definitive information. But from what I do know from the email exchange that Phil and I have had, there is a future public improvement of the city sidewalk that is being planned for a few years down the road, so to speak. And given the opportunity now and drainage issues that I think Ron mentioned, when the snow was melting, they realized once you pave over the grass surface, the drainage is going to change a little bit. That's probably something that the city might want to be moving up and take advantage of the same timing here. I would differentiate that as it's being timely. The timing is being caused because of this paving of that grassy area, but it's not the same as being part of it in a sense. We would be doing some kind of improvement later on. I believe that I'm accurate in saying that. Again, I've only got some information at this point. So I want to make sure, and I'm certain that we will report out to the council whatever time is involved. We hear you. We don't normally price out our projects that way because we're not really bidding them out as a contractor would per se, but we can certainly report how many hours it took and some of those kind of things once the project takes place later on. So we have that for the record. If there are, but I think there's some, we'll have to differentiate between what is actually a public improvement that benefits the community as in a sidewalk and sidewalk drainage expansion from this particular project. I don't want to conflate those too much and get it confused that suddenly it's, I don't know what the sidewalk improvement costs will be. I don't think we have those designed yet, but there's no sense in having this area put in some beautiful pavers and everything set up to go, and then 2 or 3 years from now, we tear a corner of it up because we want to redo the sidewalk. So unfortunately, that only came up late in this process after it's been discussed with the council, but we can certainly report on both of those. The last point I would make, if there are, I've heard different concerns from different aldermen, if there are changes to the direction to the staff tonight, that should be in an amended motion so we have it clear. We hear each individual, but we need to know what the council wants to do collectively. We can certainly be responsive to individuals, but we've got to know what the clear direction from the city council that has to make the ultimate decision. Do you wish this to come back in a final form before you give it final approval, yet give direction tonight? Do you wish to have some other stipulations on it? Ron mentioned a couple of options.
One of the options would be to put a not to exceed figure in terms of the participation of the city for this particular project, independent of things that we might do for infrastructure that's outside of the project. That would maybe give just a little bit of wiggle room, but also give council the confidence to know that this wasn't going to balloon way past the original projection. I might suggest that we put a not to exceed figure of $500 unless approved by the council. That would give a little bit of wiggle room for things that weren't thought about ahead of time, but it would also give you the confidence to know that this isn't just going to keep going and going and become a huge project. And again, that's just for the part that's we're asking to pave over. That's not some of the other ancillary improvements that we might make, as John said, because it's a good time to do it while something else is going on, and ultimately we need to do it anyway. So I would ask if that's something that the council is comfortable with. Certainly, I can understand there's a certain time sensitivity to this to get it going. Weather's going to get nice today, notwithstanding, before too long, and this space, the sooner it's available for the businesses there, the better for them. So my suggestion would be that if we can move this along tonight with an addendum to the motion that would give you some comfort, that would certainly be my preference. So let me hear what the rest of you might have to say about that. And if you agree with that, you could make a motion and then, or change, make an amendment to the motion, and we could move on. So let's go back to each of the aldermen and see where you're at and what you would like to do tonight in terms of moving ahead. We'll begin with Alderman Anderson.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the amendment to 500. While I agree, I think it was either Alderman Wilson or Widener. I think it would be nice for us to quantify the in-kind that we're providing. I don't believe that we need to authorize an in-kind level of service since this is public property that we're enhancing. That's why we have our public services, and so I don't feel like that needs to be in the calculation. though I think it would be good for us to do that in the rears, so we've got a benchmark for future projects.
Okay, so you're comfortable with amending the motion to add the $500 limit?
I am.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Ashour?
Same thing. I think upping it to $500 is a reasonable way. I know with all the projects that the Public Works Department has done that we have chosen to do ourselves rather than have others do, it was a cost savings because we looked at their salaries as being payable on a regular basis anyway. It's part of our overall overhead. And as long as they don't take away from other work that if they're able to accomplish other things that are core services and still do this, I think it's a value.
Okay, so you are also comfortable with the $500 not to exceed?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Berry?
I'm okay with the $500 not to exceed.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Davalos?
I also agree. I'm okay with that figure.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman?
I don't know if this would help provide any clarity to anybody, but in item L, which we just approved tonight, there was an invoice for gravel, a February 15th invoice for 44.7 tons, which is on page 2 of item L, which indicates we bought, if it's 2 loads of gravel or something, 44.7 tons total for $410.13. I don't know if this was the gravel for this project, which was bought in mid-February, or if this is gravel for some other purpose.
I am going to presume it's for another purpose. I can't imagine that it was bought in advance or in advance of a city council vote. So, any wish to speak to that? Phil?
Yeah, I can speak that. No, this is just gravel used for other purposes, probably a water main break, filling the hole or something like that. It definitely was not for this purpose.
Okay.
Okay, and I don't know if that amount is in any way comparable to what we would need for this project or not, but maybe that provides some clarity to the amount. That's all I have.
Okay, I would personally just trust the Public Works to gauge the amount of gravel they need for that project and put a price on it. But that's me. So thank you, Alderman Goodman. Alderman Crishaw?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Widener?
Yes, I'm comfortable with the $500 amendment. And also, again, just emphasizing we should keep track of the staff time and create a benchmark for other projects that may come along that we would wish to support, so that we're not in any way showing favoritism from one business to another.
Okay,
thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Alderman Wilson?
I agree with the proposal.
Okay, could we have a motion then to amend the motion on the floor to include the not to exceed figure of $500?
Correct.
Are you making that motion, Alderman Wilson? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Alderman Widener will move to create a not to exceed figure of $500 for the project listed in item I.
And may I have a second, please?
Second, Alderman Davalos.
Okay, now, Attorney Lenneman, are we going to vote now on the amendment to the motion?
Yes. So the vote should be to amend the motion and then vote again on the amended motion.
Thank you. Okay, that's what I thought. So that's what we'll do. We have a roll call on the amendment to the motion to have a not to exceed figure of $500 included. May I have a roll call, please?
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Alderman Crishaw.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
The motion to amend the motion carries. We'll go back to the original motion now. If anyone has additional comments, I would ask you to speak up. I'm not going to go through the list. There's been substantial discussion already, but if anyone wishes to add something more, now's your chance.
This is Attorney Loneman. Mayor, just to clarify, we're going back to the original motion as amended.
Thank you. I'm glad we have our attorney with us. Sometimes you miss a word and it changes everything. Thank you, Brooke. Okay. May I have another roll call, please?
Alderman Berry,
Aye.
Alderman Goodman,
Nay.
Alderman Widener,
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell,
Aye.
Alderman Anderson,
Aye.
Alderman Davalos,
Aye.
Alderman Ashour,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion as amended passes. We'll move on into the regular agenda for this evening. We have two items. Item 7A, an opportunity for discussion of the FY 2021 financial update. Who would like to lead that off? John Coakley, don't try to avoid eye contact with me. I see you there.
I'm adjusting to the new adjustments for the virtual distance separated meeting. Thank you.
You're in a different
Whatever that means.
Was something I said.
Okay, thank you very much. We have the report of the market fluctuating, market sensitive, economically impacted revenues, as we have just kind of giving what staff calls a COVID-19 fiscal update memo in the packet. Again, it shows some slight improvement for the most part over the prior months, and our economic situation and the revenues that we are getting, even though down, are not as bad as we thought 1 year ago or in April of 20 or May of 20, but they're still down in many cases. As you heard at the budget meeting, the general fund has some impacts. The hotel tax fund certainly has some impacts, and the capital maintenance replacement fund certainly has some impacts this year. Many of those things have been made up for by adjustments to spending. We have used some of the reserve money for the general fund, for example. We've reduced costs in the capital maintenance programs for each year. Some of the road paving projects and the equipment purchases have been put off or delayed to save that money. We are also fortunate, I should say, that we were able to acquire some grant money to do some of the road paving, so that took some of the pressure off of the capital maintenance replacement fund and those expenses. Things will be starting to turn around. We talked about that quite a bit Saturday at the budget meeting. By all accounts, from the leading economic folks, economists, and other experts, they're projecting things will be turning around. I don't want to make guarantees. Nobody can do that at this point. Otherwise, we'd be in a different business, making a lot of money on the lottery or something. Nobody can make exact forecasts, but it looks like things are turning around, and we will have a slow recovery and return to more normalcy. That noted, it also, as the mayor spoke at the beginning of the meeting, and there is the pending information about the, I always get this wrong, the American Rescue Plan, American Recovery Plan. It just got signed last Thursday, and there will be some money coming to the city. We will find out. It won't be immediate. Within 90 days, I was just looking at some information during the meeting that came from the Illinois Municipal League. Within 90 days, the federal government has to make that first payment. Because we're a smaller city, we will not receive the money directly. Naperville, Chicago, Aurora will all receive money directly somewhere within about 90 to 100 days. We have to wait. It will go to the state, and then the state will decide when they distribute it. Probably, I would venture, early summer, we will get that, some portion of the money, or midsummer. There's a second payment that will come a year later, and then the state will also get it and have a few months, likely. There's no details yet, as the mayor said, when we will get that. So it would be divided up. It should be very helpful. 1.6 million, but we're not sure, as the mayor said, if that's an accurate number. I looked at a spreadsheet that was sent out preliminarily, and just perusing it, I could see some towns that had very odd amounts, so there is some disparities on there. We will get more details. We will find out and share that, but when we look at this and talk about bottom line, there will be some other money coming, one-time infusion of cash, split into 2 different fiscal years. We should see some of it in fiscal 22, which we're about to start May 1st, and then another infusion of it would come very likely in fiscal 23. That's all good news. And then we also have to remember we got forget the acronyms, we get CARES Act funding from last year's revenue to support a bunch of our expenses that we incurred because of COVID, which was $680,000, which we were able to get last year. It's very good money. It helps us bridge and stopgap some of the losses. It helps us with cash flow. It did not make us whole in all the revenues that we were lost. Because of course, when businesses are suffering and closed and not having a lot of revenue generated because people can't go to them, when people aren't working and they can't spend money, of course, the taxes aren't being, business is doing poorly, so they're not generating taxes, so the city also suffers. That was across the entire segment of the community. There are some bright spots on here. I'll let Kevin make some comments on some of the things. Some parts of our sales taxes, home rule, and the state shared have been doing well. When our businesses like the restaurants, though, are not open and operating fully, that hurts us. That's a big, large material portion of our sales taxes. We also get a lot from entertainment taxes, like Main Event and the theater, and they also pay sales taxes, et cetera. So with them being closed or at lower levels, we don't get as much as we would in normal times. As things reopen, as they come back, we should be doing better again, but there will be a slow process to recovery. I think I said I'd make a few comments. Certainly was not honest because I made a lot of comments, but hopefully that adds some context. And Kevin, if you can fill in some blanks or give some more detail, I appreciate it.
Well, I think you used up most of the words I would have used, but all in all, the one thing I'll point out in here that we don't have reflected is anything to do with the income tax that we would normally receive in March. That has not been received yet. I would expect that to have a positive impact, albeit not a large impact, because every month since, let me see, looking back, every month since August, income tax has actually exceeded our budgetary expectation. So I would expect there to be a little bit of help from that again when we receive the actual March disbursement of that, which should be any day now. So that's a good sign to help. Right now, we projected about a $968,000 loss for the year, and I would expect that to go down a little bit. It certainly won't go down too substantially, but it will go down a little bit as well. The other one I want to point out, which we pointed out before, has been the local motor fuel tax through the addition of Thornton's, and I keep repeating that, but it's been very good in adding to the revenue that's going into the capital maintenance and replacement fund. It's been going up every month since they came on board, and we're actually at this point, we're actually at about 99% of what we expected to get, and we can expect that to go in excess of 100% at this point. So I think that's been a great addition to the community, and certainly a great addition to the revenue going into fund the CMRP plan, which is in the capital maintenance and replacement fund.
Well, that's a good way to end your commentary. Thank you. That's very positive. Thank you both for keeping a close eye on this. Clearly, it's a fluid situation. Clearly, we have difficulty predicting what's going to be happening for the next half a year, year and a half, 2 years. But you certainly are doing an excellent job of keeping tabs of what's going on to give us some idea of how we can make informed decisions financially going forward. So I'll ask for comments from the alderman at this point. If you have none, or if you have one, now's your chance. Alderman Anderson.
No comments. Thank you. Good report.
Thank you. Alderman Ashauer.
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Berry.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Davalos.
No comment.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman.
Thank you. When we did the budget, we did know about the pandemic. There had already been some loss of revenue and some closures. And this update tends to measure our collection against our budget estimate. So we're only measuring against the projections that we made at the time. It's very useful but would you agree that it actually misses some of our actual revenue losses?
And that is a question for,
I suppose Finance Director Dahlstrand?
okay, thank you.
I don't think it's a straight comparison of apples to apples because, as you recall, this report is actually being done on a cash basis. We don't do any of our other financial reporting on a cash basis to speak of. Everything else we do is on an accrual basis. The overall loss that we are projecting budgetarily will exceed what we're projecting here. And maybe that's the point you're actually making, but the reports beyond this will go by fiscal year and on the accrual basis and more based on when things are recognized as opposed to when they're received. So I think I think that answers part of what you're trying to get at. The losses will exceed what we report here, and that's reflected within our budget.
Right. No, I'm not trying to make any point about accrual versus cash accounting. My point is entirely about the rescue plan funds. I've attended 3 seminars and telephone town halls about the funds for municipalities in the last few days. And our recovery is based upon our total loss of revenue for a full fiscal year. So how difficult would it be to calculate our total loss of revenue for the full fiscal year? Since we're almost at the end of this fiscal year, we can project a little bit, and then pretty shortly we'll know what that number is.
Well, today I can't really project end of the year yet. I won't know end of the year for sure until about July, because by July is when we've recognized all the revenue and expenses that would be applicable for our fiscal year.
Okay. I mean, it seems clear to me just looking at the budget change of the revenue expected just for the general fund alone, already just from this year to the past fiscal year in the budget exceeds the amount of our allocation for the rescue plan. So I feel quite confident that we will be eligible for all of it, which is the important point. And moving on to consider other funds, it would certainly exceed that by quite a bit. And then the 2 other expenses which are eligible for those funds are water and sewer infrastructure expenses. So I think looking ahead at our next year or 2 of water and sewer infrastructure costs, I think we could probably spend the rescue plan funds 2 or 3 times over, which is, I guess, a relevant point that I'm trying to make. And I don't know exactly what the paperwork requirements will be in terms of proving our eligibility. I know that the amounts that might seem odd to Administrator Coakley are based initially on population and then adjusted by the percentage of people in that population that are below the poverty level, and then adjusted again by the local unemployment rate. So that might clarify part of that. But I guess certainly when the memo says our lost revenue is projected for market-based revenues at a little over 968,000, that's only compared to what our budget projection was for this year, knowing that COVID was going to impact our revenues. And so that 968,000 does not, and should not cap our rescue plan funding.
Mr. Coakley, a comment?
Yes, Alderman Goodman, you're correct. Well, first of all, thank you. I have not gotten to be able to dig that deeply into the whole act and the plan. You've got more information on that. That answers the question why a Hinsdale and a Naperville seem to be getting less per capita than Aurora and Warrenville and some others. So that certainly answers that. I haven't been able to get that deep into it. Secondly, you are absolutely correct. Our total losses across all city funds and revenue will certainly exceed that 1.6 million. And the timing on the losses is not ending yet. So we are still going forward. The budget is only a snapshot of our fiscal year, is only a snapshot of our fiscal condition. Those COVID-related losses, as we recover, we will still have less than we would have had it not been for COVID. I think that will all count going forward as well. If you look at I think the best idea of the projection loss right now, Finance Director was answering is when we'll actually get those revenues so we could then, short of the audit, having a real number, to answer the question about April 30th and the fiscal 21 losses, but we've already projected those numbers in the budget itself. We could pull them out of there. Those are certainly not actual losses, but those are projected losses. So I think that does help with where we could estimate that factor.
Yes, I would completely agree. And just based on the estimate that is in the budget, the number is about $40,000 more than just in the general fund. $40,000 more than the amount that would have been allocated. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I interrupting you, Finance Director Dahlstrand?
No, you're not interrupting me at all. I was going to chime in when you were done.
Okay. I did have a couple more questions, but please go ahead.
I was just going to add, the current projected loss across all funds right now is just short of $1.9 million. So maybe that helps a little bit with what we're looking at.
Okay, and that's compared to the budgeted
Correct.
estimates? Not compared to the most recent fiscal year, which I think is how it's phrased in the rescue plan. Okay, got it. Thank you. Looking at page 10 of this memo, I have a couple more questions. One is maybe just my own personal confusion. It says sort of midway down the page that we delayed filling 3 vacancies in the ranks of uniformed police officers and hired a 4th who was fully trained, moving the expenses associated with attending the academy. Maybe this is just my confusion, but I remembered the police chief saying that there was a grant that fully covers the costs of sending a recruit to the academy. So I was trying to figure out what this meant.
Chief, are you on the line?
Yes, Mayor, I'm here. I can find out exactly about that, Alderman, but if my memory serves me correctly, when this whole pandemic issue broke because of the training issues, a decision was made by the state training board that they revoked that grant so that the municipalities were responsible. I can check with the finance director tomorrow. I have not recalled seeing an invoice for their training, but I'll check with the finance department tomorrow and also with Suburban Law Enforcement Academy.
Thank you. My last question is about the items at the bottom where it says that we've saved money on holidays and many of the TAC grant funded events and activities out of the hotel tax fund. Can we get the number? I don't expect you to know this off the top of your head, but just how much of the budgeted TAC funding for last year was paid out and how much I suppose we saved because of cancellations? It's probably not a very large amount, but there probably is some number.
I will certainly provide that figure.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Krischel.
I have no questions or comments. Thank you.
Very good. Alderman Widener.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alderman Wilson.
No questions. Thank you.
Very good. We'll move on to 7B, FY 2022 budget discussion. Just a reminder that last Saturday morning, we had a 3-hour discussion of the budget, an intense discussion that a lot of questions were answered. And again, the council takes their mission of carefully managing the money of the city very carefully and spent a lot of time out of the details of how that was going to happen. Very similar to, I guess I would just have to point out that the committee meeting for the Monday before that was also 3 hours long in preparation for tonight's budget or tonight's agenda. So a lot of time is spent making these decisions, whether you believe that they're the correct decisions or not. The council puts in their time, and the opportunity for public comment is always there at those committee meetings. So editorials, let's move on to the budget discussion and anything. I guess we spent so much time Saturday. We'll just go through the alderman again and see if you've got anything that's left over from that discussion that you'd like to take up tonight. Alderman Anderson?
Nothing additional. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Ashour?
Nothing additional. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Berry?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Davalos?
I'm okay. Thanks.
Good. Alderman Goodman?
Thank you. I have a meeting scheduled with staff to go through my questions.
Good. Thank you. Alderman Frischel?
Nothing from me. I'm good.
Okay. Alderman Widener?
Thank you. I have nothing at this time.
Very good. And Alderman Wilson?
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you all. And again, thank you for Saturday morning, the 3 hours that we hashed this out in detail. We'll move on in the agenda then to unfinished business. There is none, at least that's listed here. Nothing under new business. We do, however, have the need for a closed session this evening. If I could have the motion and the citation, please, Alderman Berry.
I would like to go into closed session for the purpose of 5 ILCS 120/2 parens C, parens 2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and 5 ILCS 120/2 parens C, parens 1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second, please? Oh.
Alderman Davalos, second.
Okay, second. We had the motion from Alderman Berry, that's right, and a second from Alderman Davalos. Now, we need a roll call.
Thank you. Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Kreschel.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Eschauer.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Thank you. We're now going to go into closed session. We will not be conducting any business after the closed session, but anyone wishing to stay on the call may do so until the meeting is officially ended. Thank you.
Pardon? I don't know what we do. We didn't close out of that.
Yeah, I need to do that. I have to close out so we can go back in.
Do you need to see what we were? This is the new.
No, I just need this one right here.
Okay, we have concluded our executive session for this evening. We have returned into open session. Is anyone still on the call? And we're checking. No one is here. Therefore, the council has voted to adjourn for this evening. Good night.